Hello, hello. So, welcome to another episode of the MBG Chats, which is a sub-series of the Master in Business Growth podcast. And today I'm joined by Ben Hurren, who is the founder of Vingt Quatre. And I'm sure you're going to tell us about your other venture as well, because I'm keen to hear about that as well. But yeah, thanks for coming on. Appreciate your time. So, without further ado, give us a little bit of an intro of who you are and how you've kind of got to this point.
No, of course. Well, firstly, thank you very much for inviting me on. It's a pleasure to join you and chat about all things denim related and a little bit about me as well. I guess the easiest place to start is where it all began for me. I guess from 16 years old as a part-time sales assistant, fell in love with the world of fashion and how collections would change over from one season to the next. Some product that came into the store that I was working at the time, I loved, and some I didn't, and started asking questions. Who was making these decisions and who was responsible for the product that was coming into the store. And I learned that it was somebody called a fashion buyer or a retail buyer, and I was like, okay, this sounds like quite like an interesting gig. So I did a bit of research and then fortunately landed a work experience placement at a department store called Harvey Nichols back when I was 18 or so, almost 18, and just fell in love with it. I like the business side of fashion as well as the clothes side, and that was sort of the career that I fell into. Had the privilege of working at some of the UK's most sort of prestigious retail businesses. So from Harvey Nichols to Matches Fashion and then to Selfridges. And I suppose Selfridges was probably the business where I really cut my teeth and found my feet. And I loved it there. I spent about 6.5 years of my career there. Firstly, managing the denim area and the men's casual wear department. And then I moved over into tailoring and then luxury designer. I became a buying manager, so someone that leads a bigger team and is responsible for a bigger portfolio of the of the business. And I suppose along that journey, started to develop an ambition for creating something for myself, or having either a store or a fashion brand or something like that. Throughout my buying career, it was actually denim and men's denim as a business division that I really found my niche, or that I had quite a flair for it and an understanding of that area of the market. And that's where the idea of Vingt Quatre came around, although in its really infant guise, and it's gone through many sort of different name changes over the years that I've been developing it. But I isolated on a gap in the market for a premium product at a specific price point without compromising on quality or anything else, but fundamentally making it really comfortable, making it accessible to a wide variety of men, and not just pigeonholing myself into one sort of demographic. I wanted it to, for the people that eventually did buy it, no matter what your age, your shape or size, you still felt confident in it. And so that's what I set out to create, before sort of scraping the industry to try and find if a brand existed that fit that bill. And I couldn't, and people that had that role in Selfridges after me couldn't find it, and so decided to do it myself. And it's taken just shy of 4 years to get to this point, with fabric development, with fit development, and finding the right factory partners, and then bringing it to market. And I'm very, very proud to say that, as of next week, the jeans will be available on a table in Selfridges London, Oxford Street. And
Wow. Congratulations.
it's a nice sort of full circle moment for me, really, where the idea was birthed out of being in that business, and then to actually be able to launch it with those guys as an official launch partner is it's quite a proud moment for me. So as of next week, you'll be able to go and see them physically in the flesh in London, Oxford Street, and then we'll see where we go after that, I guess. In a nutshell.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, and it really is like a full circle moment, isn't it? Having like cut your teeth with Selfridges, and having that experience with Harvey Nichols as well, which I'm sure we're all aware of. Like, I don't think we can at one time or another walk down any high street and not see a Harvey Nicks at some point. Explain the name to me. What does the name mean? What does it mean to you? What does it mean to the brand and to the customer?
Yeah, so I suppose with any kind of company or anything that you set up yourself, I think most people try to find a personal connotation or some sort of relevance between the company and you as an individual. So Vingt Quatre is French for the number 24, which for me is very personal. I'm born on the 24th of September, so that's the personal connotation between the brand and myself. I also like there's a bit of a play on 24 hours in a day, and there's a product that you can wear for 24 hours of a day, 7 days a week, and so forth. But so yeah, Vingt Quatre is quite simply 24, and it's the day I'm.
Ultimately, as well, with it being a French word as well, there's a sort of connotation to prestige and fashion and level of quality with it being French, because obviously, the French are synonymous with fashion, aren't they?
Indeed, yeah. From haute couture to Paris Fashion Week, all that kind of stuff, and I do think sometimes things sound a little bit better in French as well. So, and going through IPOs and trademarks and all that kind of stuff, it was very challenging to try and trademark the word 24 or even the number 24. So then I started looking at different ways that you could say it, if it, in different languages, or and then yeah, we landed on Vingt Quatre. So
Love it. I love it. To be fair, though, I mean, you can read a lot into a name, but ultimately it's the product that sells, isn't it? So just talk to us a little bit about the product. Like, what is it about the denim that you use that makes it a little bit more, a little bit different? Because obviously there's a lot of denim companies out there, as I'm sure you're probably aware.
Indeed.
And it's an incredibly competitive market, even within fashion. I know we've seen with American Eagle recently, there's been a bit of sort of like, there's been a bit of a hoo-ha around modeling denim and all that kind of stuff. But for you, what is it that makes your denim not unique as such? Because I think that would be quite a push to get you to do that. But what is it? What's the differentiator here?
So again, yeah, going back to my experience at Selfridges, I've had the pleasure of working with a multitude of brands, in the region of 50 plus, and felt all different kinds of fabric. There was a moment in time where a lot of brands were using quite a sizable amount of elastane in the product, which does give a nice level of comfort, but ultimately it dilutes the quality of the raw material. And what you might find over time is that jean will lose its shape, or if it goes through washing cycles multiple times, it doesn't ever hold its true form. So I wanted to find a fabric that felt like a true denim but still had that level of comfort. So we have a minute amount of elastane in our products, roughly 2%. But then the softness of the quality of the denim also brings that level of comfort to the wearer as well. So the touch, it will feel like a jean. Myself and people that have worn them, and they can't stop touching them because of how tactile the fabric feels. It's a really premium fabric. So I'm very happy with the amount of time it took to develop it and find the and to find the right fabric. So am I breaking the mold? Not necessarily by any stretch, but I think what I've been able to do is lend my years of experience as a buyer and working with a multitude of brands to figure out exactly what I wanted to achieve with this product, and so that when the wearer is in them, they have a lovely experience. It feels like they're super comfortable, they feel confident, but at the same respect, I'm not asking you for a significant amount of money to wear them. In the denim landscape at the moment, there are a lot of brands that offer a fantastic product, but at quite an extensive price point. So I wanted to do something that matched that level of quality, but at an attainable price point for people.
Well, that's the thing. And when I was looking at your website, I'd noticed that the price wasn't absolutely obscene, actually, because that's something that when you're looking at denim specific companies, and obviously we've worked with a lot of fashion brands in our time as an agency and what have you. The price points they're wildly variant. There's such a wide spectrum of pricing. We can see it all the way up into four figures for a pair of jeans, all the way down to £9 from your local supermarket, and that's that shows the quality, but it also shows probably the level of sourcing as well, because obviously supermarkets have, and Selfridges have, that they have huge buying power. I guess from your experience as a buyer and working in that industry, how has that experience lended you to being able to go out to manufacturers and raw material suppliers to get the best. What does that process and that journey look like for you? Because there'll be plenty of people potentially watching this who are thinking about starting, or they're in an e-com and they're in fashion specifically, and they're going, I just don't know where to start. I don't know where to find the best materials. Yeah, what's that journey look like for you?
I suppose, thankfully, because of the career that I've had, there's a little bit of industry expertise that I've got there going into starting a brand. I think some people can make the mistake of, when they are trying to start a clothing brand, you go and find a factory and, you want to make a jean or you want to make a t-shirt. And then that factory will say to you, right, for this fabric, it's going to cost you X, X amount. And then from there, you scale up to what the retail price will be based on import duty and wholesale margins and so on. So you could end up inadvertently with quite an expensive product and then pricing yourself out of the market. Whereas what I did, I started at the top end of my pricing architecture. So what I wanted my exit price point to be, and then work backwards to there. So when I was sourcing factories and trying to find the right partners, I said to them that this is the price point that I wanted to be at for the customer. And then we work backwards from there. And then naturally, within those pricing brackets, there are going to be certain qualities available to you and some that, might be a little bit more expensive. But I was very determined on those retail price points and not going above a £200 retail, and then working back from there and sort of stood within that framework.
Why £200 then? Why was that the magic number for you?
Basically, it's hard out there for people at the moment, isn't it? Everything seems to be going up, and I felt like that seemed to be a bit of a threshold for people, almost like a bit of a cap. I could have stayed around at £150, but then I wasn't achieving the quality of fabric that I wanted to at that price point. So it just felt like a bit of a sweet spot for me. And also comparatively to what other brands are doing in the market, a lot of them sit above £200 and some just under 300. Between 150 and £200, it wasn't an overly saturated space in the market. But then I feel like my quality of fabric is just a little bit more premium to what some of the other guys are doing in that.
I think you've touched on I love the term pricing architecture, by the way. I just love that as a term. And I think a lot of people need to focus actually on their pricing architecture. And I think probably for you, or at least for, talking more about pricing architecture and how to create your exit price. And we're not talking about business valuation. We're talking about product exit price. What's the price the customer will pay? And then reverse engineering that, because knowing your numbers is absolutely paramount for running a business, right? It's not just about the business numbers. It's about unit economics, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Businesses are run on profit at the end of the day, not just revenue. So with this pricing architecture, I wanted to make sure that there was a healthy profit margin into the retail partners that I partnered up with, that there was a nice profit margin for me between manufacturing cost and wholesale cost, but then also quite a nice profit margin between my manufacturing cost and the exit price. So making sure that all of those denominators were accounted for in the planning process. So then when I did go to market, I felt like I kind of ticked off every box so that everyone was in a good place, and it was a commercial opportunity, not just for me, but also for retail partners. But then also thinking about that exit retail price point, and that it was actually quite palatable for the customers that I'm going to be targeting.
Just thinking about the journey you've had, because obviously you were probably quite cushy, you were probably quite comfortable, and you've gained a lot of experience, and it would have made sense to just go on to the next big player and be a buyer there, or work in product there. And what was it? What was the mindset behind wanting to go out on your own? As you've alluded to in this conversation so far, it's tough out there for people, and for 4 years of running a business is not easy in its on its own. But what was the mindset back then for going out on your own? Was it just time? Was it circumstance? Was it opportunity? What was it about that particular time to go out on your own?
It was a combination of things. Throughout my career, I'd always daydreamed about setting up a business or a brand or a store. I've said this before, but I read something once that if you find yourself daydreaming in a 9 to 5 of things to take you out of that 9 to 5, then you have what's called like an entrepreneurial spirit. So, and I would. Vingt Quatre is one that I've landed on, but prior to that, there were different ideas and different things that I wanted to do. trying to launch a brand and even a business whilst you're in a 9 to 5 job comes with its challenges. 9 to 5s are quite taxing, both from a time perspective, but also from a mental perspective. And it was actually last year, the end of summer, I was working at a British brand, Reiss, and I left there at the end of June. And I sort of thought, well, if I don't do it now, if I don't give it a go, then I'm probably never going to. I launched my own business, which was a consulting company, all centered around fashion and brand management. And in doing so, that allowed me the time to really focus on developing the final stages of Vingt Quatre. So in the last 12 months for the denim brand, it's really accelerated because there was the time available to me to really focus on it, whilst also building the consultancy. And they kind of both a burning desire for a long time to go out and do it, and then circumstantial that the time was right for me to really give it a go.
I think that's really smart. I think that's really a smart way of approaching going out on your own, actually, in terms of using all of that experience you've got and putting it into that consulting arm of the business, I guess, because it's, and I'm right in saying that consultancy, is it, you do brand management, which is called Vault, is that right?
Yeah, well, there is. There's another pillar to this conversation, I suppose. My consultancy business was called Concept 24. My business partners now with Vault Brand Management are actually the two gentlemen that introduced me to my business partners on Vingt Quatre. And through that journey with Vingt Quatre and those business partners, they asked me if I would be interested in joining Vault Brand Management and consultancy, effectively merging with Vault. It's been a wild 12 months. I can't lie. Been fortunate in certain instances, but I am a firm believer that things happen when the time is right. And for me, the last 12 months have certainly been that.
Yeah, it sounds like it as well, actually. I mean, that, you've gone through essentially a merger. Not many people experience going through a merger or being absorbed by a larger company. We won't go into the intricacies of whether any cash was exchanged or anything, but that can happen to a lot of companies, and I think that's a smart move, especially if it serves a wider purpose. I love the fact that it was called Concept 24 as well, and we're starting to see a bit of a through line through everything. Yeah. What's the goal then? What's the goal with Vingt Quatre? Because obviously people start these things and they go, okay, I need a bit of financial freedom, or I just want to work for myself. I'm a bit, I don't want to be told what to do. I want a bit of flexibility. But what's the goal for you? Like, for you personally, what did you have written down on that sort of image board, or, mood board, or whatever, vision board they call it? But what was it for you?
I suppose with it, the long-term ambition is creating something that's a bit of a legacy, and it outlives me. The first sort of stepping stone to get to that goal was obviously getting it live and getting it set up, and I achieved that one. I'm having a really good time with it, and I'm really enjoying being able to create something and wear it, and my friends and family wear it, and Joe Public buy it, and receive lots of wonderful compliments. Like that's quite a lovely feeling that I hope many people are afforded the opportunity to feel as well. But yeah, look, long term, there's a 5-year plan that we have in place with myself and my business partners, and so that's really the focus, is to get to that goal. So beyond that, we're not really focusing on much. It's just that's sort of the stake in the ground, and there's a lot of work in order to get there. But we're out the gates with it. We've got some fantastic retail partners, and then there's obviously going to be a lot of focus and attention on making sure that it works, it performs, it grows, and that leads to maybe a Harvey Nichols partnership or a Liberty of London partnership and those kind of things. So from a personal standpoint, I've got 2 kids, and I would love for them, when they get a little bit older, to understand it and see it and use it as a bit of an inspiration to say that, if you have a goal and you have a dream, if you put your mind to it, you can go out and achieve it. So that's probably one of them.
I love that, and I completely resonate with that as well, because similar position with 2 children, and I quite often, like, my son will quite often say, like, Daddy, what do you do for work again? And I have to explain that it's not quite the same as what mummy does, or it's not quite the
Yeah,
same as what my friends do. And it's like, I'm a bit sort of here, there, and everywhere, and it's not your typical job that
no,
everybody else's parents have.
yeah,
I think he quite enjoys that because it's one of those things that it makes I guess his daddy a little bit different,
sure.
and
Yeah,
he
no,
he could talk about it. But I totally get that, in terms of looking at a way of working, something that's a little bit of a right now potentially a bit of an outlier because not a huge amount of people do it in terms of what is like the sort of social norm, I guess. But I think with what you're saying there, I completely resonate with that. Um, is there a plan to exit the business? Is that part of the long term goal, or is it like you say? Is it the legacy to outlive you? Would that involve an exit?
yeah. There's an exit is in the back of mind. We have spoken about it between myself and my business partners. But as I said, the next 5 years and getting to that goal is going to take a lot of out of me to get it to where it needs to be. The exit, yeah, absolutely. If I can retain a little piece of it and just enjoy the fruits of the labor. It's not that I've had almost a 20 in the fashion industry. These next 5 years are going to be quite intense in order to get the brand where it needs to be. Do I want to be doing that for another 20 plus years after? Not really. I want to start what I'm thinking about winding down, and I've got other ambitions outside of having a jeans brand or a brand management business. So I'd love for this to be able to provide me the resources to go out and achieve those other ambitions. But all of the focus at the moment is on this next years.
Amazing. So within the next 5 years, then, how do you see the split? Because obviously, selling product, a lot of people focus on D2C, and a lot of people like to go into retail. But I think that for a fashion brand or for any kind of product brand to survive and thrive, you're going to have a healthy mix.
Yeah.
So what does that mix and what does that split look like for you? How are you weighting the split between D2C and retail?
So yeah, look, the finding cut through in a digital landscape as a fashion brand is an extremely challenging task. There's a lot of noise, not just on social media, but in Google and other online channels. So unless you've got an extremely extensive digital marketing budget to be able to cut through all of that stuff, then D2C strategy first is one that would make sense for you. But really and truly, the greatest marketeers for fashion brands are retail partners. And if you're able to land your product in some of the best department stores in the world, it's a great window into your brand and to your product and exposure to a multitude of customers, which in return will likely feed D2C because on the website there'll be a wider product offering. This is on my brand on Vingt Quatre versus what a retailer might buy. So the full collection is available. We'll then start introducing new categories like knitwear or jackets or maybe footwear and some other things. So having a wider category availability on the website gives customers a reason to shop with you online as opposed to going into stores. My strategy for the brand was always wholesale first and building out a wholesale business, which in turn would feed D2C. Also, too, being a UK brand and a British brand, I really want to cement itself in the UK with multiple retailer partnerships. Then think about Europe and then eventually the US. But there's a staged approach with each of those expansion milestones. But fundamentally, yeah, UK first, really solidifying the brand in the United Kingdom, multiple resale partnerships, certainly validate the brand and the product. Those then international retailers look at you a bit more favorably because, well, if that person and that person are buying it and it's stocked there, then it must be something pretty good. I think, yeah, it just depends on if you are wanting to start a fashion brand. It depends on which part of the market you want to launch into, and if you want to focus on D2C versus wholesale. But for me, the right strategy felt like going into retail partnerships first. Also, I mean, it's backed up by denim is quite a hard product to sell online because of body shapes, how it fits. Is a slim the right fit for me? Is a taper the right fit for me? So there'll be a few people that will buy multiple sizes, then they'll send one back, or multiple fits and send one back. So denim does have quite a high return rate online. So a way for me to try and caveat that was leading with retail partnerships first, where there were physical destinations for people to go and try it on, and then in turn come and shop with me on the website over time.
I've heard that a few times now about people starting with retail, because I think obviously I think the pendulum swung a little bit to that side. You know, I was interviewing a couple of founders a couple of weeks ago at a festival in Hertfordshire. Dr. Pawpaw, completely different, not fashion, cosmetics, but you know, and they started with retail and they went into Superdrug and into Boots and those kinds of places. And part of their marketing strategy was to stand out from the shelf. You know, so big colours, big bold colours. How are you going to do that in places like, you know, Selfridges, potentially Harvey, Nichols in the future? Because, you know, jeans are jeans, right?
Yeah.
You know, we get that, you know, and there'll be multiple brands. Like, how are you potentially going to stand out from, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a big jeans brand and I'm on the spot and I can't think of it, but how are you going to stand out from the big players?
I think what I learned through my experience in Selfridges was any brand that was in that menswear department that had a sales associate or a person that was dedicated to selling their jeans on the shop floor really thrived. You know, to your point, jeans are jeans. If there's a multitude of them and you don't have someone on the shop floor guiding you, and ascertaining, you know, what fit you like, what price range you're comfortable with, it can be a bit of a minefield. So for me, and standing out in Selfridges is having a dedicated member of staff that's advocating for Vingt Quatre and for Vingt Quatre product on the shop floor, and talking to customers. It's kind of like, in a weird way, that is a bit of a marketing spend, having someone that's advocating for you, because a blue jean is a blue jean fundamentally. How do you stand out? Well, really, it's having someone that's able to communicate the brand message and talk to customers on your behalf in that store. And you'll probably see me in there when the jeans are launching, chatting to people as well.
Well, that's good, because I was just about to ask you, as a founder and as a consultant, I guess, as well, as a brand manager, how are you, Ben Hurren, the brand of Ben Hurren? What are you doing about your brand? Is that something you think about, or is it something that you think comes secondary to the product, or how do you think about that in the mix of business in general?
Yeah, I always, with Vingt Quatre, I didn't ever really see myself being, you know, in front of the lens or the main, you know, sort of face of the brand, and I still don't to a certain degree. But what I have learned is when customers are adopting a brand or adopting a new product, sometimes they are connecting with the founder first, and then ultimately converting into the product. So certainly in the brand's infancy, and whilst it is going to get, I wanted to put a face to the name of the brand and share my journey on you know, getting it to market, you know, the trials and tribulations, showing a behind the scenes lens of what goes into, you know, a campaign shoot or a factory visit. Getting a bit more comfortable with that stuff. I'm still a little bit uneasy about it, but you know, it's if it's what makes the brand a success, then I'm prepared to do it. So yeah, the campaign that we shot a couple of weeks ago, it featured myself and friends and family, ultimately trying to convey that the brand is, you know, accessible to a multitude of guys, no matter what your age or your size is. So you've got, my dad who's 62, the gentleman who's 67. I think the youngest guy in there was 28. So there was a wide age demographic and all different heights and shapes and sizes. The ambition for that campaign was to think from a customer's view looking in, and chances are, of those 18 guys that featured in the campaign, there might be someone that you resonate with from an age perspective or a body shape perspective.
And that's the main thing with product, really, isn't it? They've got to be able to see themselves in your brand. You know, is it speaking to them personally? But that's really interesting to know. Obviously, from a founder point of view, you know, you use the words, if that's what's required, you know, for the brand. I think a lot of people generally, that they don't think like that, because I think they let their own fear get in the way of, you know, it's like you are serving your brand essentially. And if that requires you to get in front of the lens, then so be it. You got to do it. You got to do it, whatever engages the customer.
Yeah, it's my idea, isn't it, at the end of the day? And being able to convey that idea and the messaging and the reasons for why, it all sort of has to come from the horse's mouth, doesn't it? So yeah, I'm a big advocate for my product and for my brand, and I'll continue to be until yeah, maybe I can hang up the model hat and just focus on building it. So but yeah, as I said, certainly in the early stages you'll see quite a bit of me on the journey to where it's got to, and giving a little bit of a window into the behind the scenes.
Good stuff. Ben, thank you so much for coming on. You've been really, really generous with your time. For people who want to check out Vingt Quatre and check out you and, engage with you as well, where can they find Vingt Quatre and where can they find you?
Yeah, of course. So on LinkedIn, I'm Ben Hurren, and then the brand is also available on LinkedIn. It's vancat.co, and then also on Instagram, it's vancat.co as well. So the same handle. So yeah, give us a follow the journey. Please buy some, and let me know and let me know what you think. But yeah, thank you very much, Paul, for having me. It's been wonderful chatting to you.
Thanks very much, mate, and all the best with Vingt Quatre and everything you do. I think you're quite an impressive guy, and I think you've got a nice journey up to now, and I think you'll only make it a success based on the breadth of your experience. So all the best of luck, mate.
I appreciate that, mate. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Cheers.